Altered Carbon is a noir sci-fi novel. Is the debut of Richard K. Morgan. Recently, it was a TV show for a couple of seasons before it got canceled, but it's considered a noteworthy science fiction story to read. So I grabbed the audiobook. This one is about Takeshi Kovacs. He is committing a crime with his partner. However, they get caught. He's sentenced to be frozen in the future. Basically, people can be re-sleeved, but it costs a lot of money. So immortality is basically in the grasp of anyone who's rich enough to have multiple bodies lined up, and they have this thing in the back of their spine called stacks, which basically copies your I guess your being, and then you can just re-upload into another body somewhere else. So rich people can basically have like whole bunches of these stashed in different places, but poor people can usually only afford one, and then they can extend their life by an extra 30-40 years. So Takeshi Kovacs is awakened, and he's forced to basically use his mercenary skills, his ex-military skills, to solve a murder. A rich man, Bancroft, had his head shot off, and he reawoke with no memories of the last 2 days in another body. So he has got to go to the estate, and basically he's going to be paid $100 grand to look into this man's attempted murder. However, the police are not helpful, and this book suffers from macho man syndrome. Not exactly wish fulfillment, but Takeshi is like the most badass, awesome, gung-ho kind of man, you know. He likes to think about all the beautiful women and have sex with them, and he's like pew pew, and you know, he's really good at fighting, and he's a badass, and he can just like, it feels really edgy, like it's trying too hard. There's a lot of like violence, there's a lot of cringy sex scenes, and when I say cringy sex scenes, I mean it's the equivalent of like you sitting down to eat a sandwich at break time, and this new employee sits down across from you, introduces himself, and then starts talking about how he rammed this girl last night, and like going into it in extreme graphic detail while you're trying to eat. That's what it kind of feels like, because you know, I'm listening to audiobook, and the euphemisms and the way they describe the sex scenes are really terrible. Like, oh, just like there was a comparison of like him ejaculating to like a champagne explosion. Come on, man, that's just really weird. And the story in itself is okay, but they introduce new elements really quickly. Characters, you know, they're there. You've got the cop sidekick. You've got the femme fatale. You got all the noir tropes. You know, you got rich people. You got like the Chinatown vibes. But overall, the plot isn't particularly memorable. The world building's okay. You get some world building. They explain all the different like technology. They don't really go into the technologies basically, but it's the equivalent of like a computer upload, where like the stacks basically have your mind, but not the recent memories. And then if someone shoots you and doesn't destroy the stack, then you just basically go into the next body over. There's a lot of convenient writing though in this book, especially near the end. Stuff just sort of happens, and plenty of action though. I mean, it's a little long, but overall, Altered Carbon does feel a little bit rough around the edges in terms of tone. It honestly feels like some authors do this too with their characters, where they amp them up to be like the greatest person in the entire universe. Ladies' Man equivalent, like an action series I enjoy is the Jack Reacher series, but he has sex in almost every book. I think he does, and you know, he's basically like a homeless man, drifter, and you know, probably, you know, smells, and like in every book though, a woman goes, oh, I want to have sex with him, even though he just like walked into town. And then James Bond in the books, he doesn't even have sex with all the women, but the movie, they took that element and put it in all the movies. So this book definitely suffers from the, you know, oh yeah, Takeshi is so hot, you know, like he's so badass, and it comes off as a little childish, but overall, you know, I didn't really love this story. You know, it's super violent when it can be, and full of like all that stuff that you think people would like. Like it's full of sex and violence and edgy stuff, you know, but it just feels a little edgelord, and didn't care for it. So I give Altered Carbon a 2 out of 5.